Like to welcome you all for the fourth virtual meeting that we're going to do today. After this meeting, we will do one more virtual meeting with Rick Barnes sometime later this month. First and foremost, I talked to Bo yesterday, and he asked me to extend a heartfelt thanks to all of our football officials across the state for their timeless effort and enthusiasm and professionalism. Obviously, we're all going through very trying times, very challenging times. And again, on behalf of the 75,000 youth that play football, part of OSHA, again, thank you very much. I'm here with Terry Williams, and I'd like to thank Terry Williams as well. He's been kind enough to produce the previous virtual meetings as well as this one, and the next one we'll do. The next one we're going to do will be on primarily Rule 9 and Rule 7, dealing with personal fouls, some holding, as well as things dealing with the passing game, DPI, OPI. Um, it's been relatively quiet on the front so far, and to that we thank you. One of the things we want to emphasize is a continual study of the rule book. We've had some misses regarding basic rules, primarily enforcement. I'm hoping when you have your pregame, be it in the parking lot or under a shade tree, in the gym or in the locker room, to each week ask each one of the crew members to take 4 or 5 minutes and cover a rule. Primarily, those rules that tend to occur more often. The other thing I'd like to do before we start with our presenter is ask Terry Williams, who spends a great amount of time critiquing, evaluating, observing the film from the schools that he does, and ask him if you have any general comments on what you've seen, Terry, for the first 2 weeks in the MOAC.
Well, and I think it all comes down to the new technique with this orange beanbag. I see U's worrying most about the old beanbag, and what they're doing is they're retrieving that old beanbag before they worry about putting the new beanbag on the spot
Sure.
down. Obviously, to keep the teams from interrupting their own flow, hurry ups, things like that, we need to get the new beanbag down first. Get that old beanbag if time permits. Get your R to help, that kind of stuff. But the new beanbag is our priority.
Yeah, that would be, of course, the one we put at the dead ball spot, once the play is over. And I know in our game last week, we had 198 plays, which was the most I've ever had in a high school game. One team ran the play about every 15 seconds. And our umpire had 3 beanbags. I had one as the R. A wing had one. And several times, we left the beanbag at the previous spot on longer plays. Terry mentioned one of his games, they had 3 consecutive long plays, so they had several beanbags on the field. Again, don't be concerned about it. We had a middle school game last night. We had one we couldn't find because of the grass, and after we had a score, we went back and found it. So
Absolutely.
it's really not that big a deal. So we'll go from there. Good. Anything else, Terry, that you can think of from what you've seen in terms of your games you've been
No,
observing or
I think
critiquing?
you hit the biggest one initially, and that was rules. We're kicking some rules. Let's make sure we refresh our minds. I think the lack of scrimmage, the lack of local meetings where people can get together and exchange ideas has got us kind of a little funk. But
Yeah.
as the season goes on, we'll be more mentally prepared. But let's go over some rules. Let's make sure we get that fresh in our minds.
Good. The other thing that you'll see that'll be in the bulletin that'll come out either today or tomorrow. Well, of course, today's Thursday, and that is something we emphasize in the interpretation meeting, and that is DQs. We're still having a few DQs that are just basically good hard hits by by players. And what we'd really encourage the crews to do, as we've mentioned before, is if there's one of those that comes up where there's a possibility of a DQ, and that would be get together as a crew and discuss it. We had one very well officiated game where the crew got together. One official thought it was a DQ. One official was reticent, and the other official leaned the other way. And fortunately, they decided, just there wasn't enough there to DQ the player. We have to remember that, of course, if we DQ that player, he's out for that game plus the next game. And of course, this year they might only be playing 6 or 7 games. So we're saying don't DQ people? Of course not. Well, let's just make sure that, if we DQ somebody, it's big. Uh, there's an intent to harm. In some cases, involves the neck and the head as such. So just take a good hard look at it. The other one I'd like to emphasize, I was watching film on another game, and crew did an excellent job in that the one wing called a DPI. The back judge did not. The two officials got together and talked and decided to wave off the flag. And then upon watching the video clip, it was a good wave off. So again, communication, unlike the old school days, coaches appreciate when officials get together and talk about something and arrive at consensus as to which way to go. It's kind of not like quite due process, but at least, the coaches they can observe the officials talking about it and at least giving some consideration to what they said. As you recall, this year, one of our 3 OHSAA points of emphasis was ineligibles illegally down the field. So let's take a look at this play. This is a great tape. As you can see, we can see multiple officials on the field. So Terry, why don't you first talk about the screen pass that occurs and what the keys are from your end as the umpire.
From the umpire's perspective, you're seeing the lineman hit, then release, and they're coming right at you. It presents a problem because now you're dodging bodies, so you can't get up to the line of scrimmage. But you know that if the pass is thrown beyond the line of scrimmage, we're going to have a flag.
Right.
So the other piece to the puzzle is a wing. Was the pass beyond the line of scrimmage? I generally throw the flag or drop the flag, and then I double check with the wing if it's close.
Right.
If it's an obvious beyond the line of scrimmage, then I just give the preliminary signal to the R and we go on. But there are many times when that ball is very close. We also know that if we have a disruption in the timing of that screen pass, it greatly increases the odds that we're going to end up with a lineman downfield, and that ball's going to go beyond the line of scrimmage.
Good. So let's go ahead and run this play, and we can see the disruption that Terry is talking about. I, as the R here, have the feel because of this quarterback having to delay throwing this pass, the possibility of someone being ineligible downfield. So if you could, Terry, let's run this back again. And we can see the rollout here, and you can see the hesitation by the quarterback. There's pressure immediately on him. As such, clearly the ball is beyond the line of scrimmage. Now, the excellent work by both officials is, we emphasis this year, is please drop the flag at the spot where the ineligibles are downfield. And why is that, Terry? Why does the umpire want to drop this flag at the spot where these ineligibles are downfield?
It's really easy to say, Coach, he was all the way downfield to where my flag was.
Excellent.
It's not one of these ticky-tack 2 in a step. He's 4, 5, 6 yards downfield.
On this particular play also, we know the importance that we've stressed the last 3 years in terms of the wings helping on this call. As you can see, they have a great perspective in one, seeing ineligible illegally downfield, that being this great big guy with this great big number. 2, they've got perspective in terms of did the ball cross the line of scrimmage. And in this situation here, you can see the L did a great job of recognizing this and throwing his flag to the spot. If you could, of course, be careful so we don't hit a player. Umpire, likewise, does the same thing, clearly from the standpoint of selling this call, from the standpoint of coaches, they can clearly see ineligibles illegally downfield. I'd like to introduce Rob Cowles, who will be our feature presenter today on the kicking game. Rob is a 15-year official, resides over in St. Paris, and he's also did the state championship game several years ago in Canton. So, Rob, welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for taking time to put together all these wonderful videos and short PowerPoint that he will share with everybody. Terry and I are both here as well, obviously, and we'll probably interject, during the presentation. So, Rob, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry and Bruce. As it's mentioned many times, it's something strange is going to happen during a football game. It's going to be during the kick game. And so why is a kicking game so complicated? We experience few opportunities to officiate these plays during the preseason, and the season itself only offers us a small amount of kick plays to gain additional experience. Players and officials are spread out across the field, and these type of plays provide us a unique mixture of players, speeds, and sizes, all moving in possibly unpredictable directions. And one missed assignment by a player brings an entirely new dynamic to these plays. The kicking game presents a unique and different set of rules, special cases and exceptions to the playing rules, and penalty enforcements, and a different set of mechanics differing from our traditional scrimmage kick plays, from our traditional scrimmage play mechanics. So we can begin to better officiate the kicking game by simply focusing on 3 areas. The kicking game's special set of mechanics are designed to safely place officials in the right place at the right time, providing us an opportunity to be looking at the right thing, in which naturally increases our chances to officiate a play correctly. Have the proper eye mechanics and the discipline to focus on players in your area, matchups closest to you, and players with bricks in their hands. Looking in the right place will help you own your own piece of the pie and leading to covering all the areas of the field. Lastly, move with a purpose. Understand why we are moving as officials. Hustle, but don't be in a hurry. And many times we want to keep moving on kick plays when if we simply stay put, we're in a better place to officiate. We can improve our coverage of play by simply eliminating unnecessary steps. These kick plays are from Ohio and provide us the opportunity to talk about mechanics and the rules. Visualize yourself in the game as you watch these plays. Think about your keys and responsibilities, and think about what changes you may need to make when the play develops. You'll get more out of the video if you put yourself into action in this way. On this block field goal attempt, let's review the line judge's mechanics. To start, both wings are in excellent initial position, being 15 yards wider than any kicking team member. Wings, stay stationary and progress through your keys. Be sure to watch the snap and be aware of possible fakes. Check down to your near tight end and wing back for their blocks, and then make sure the kick is away. Once the kick is away, we can begin to move and react and adjust to the play accordingly. Staying put at our IP provides us the needed room and space to react to this block, and would allow for this L to calmly back down the line of scrimmage into position to officiate this play. Moving in and being too close causes the L to go into survival mode, and we turn our back, breaking down the crew's coverage on this play. We can no longer maintain our relationship to the ball on the line of scrimmage. The umpire and back judge do a nice job recognizing this block kick and move up to the goal line. The back judge and umpire then can release upfield only after ensuring the goal line is no longer threatened. One note is be mindful of our spacing as officials so we're not working on top of each other. Work to maintain spacing and focus on the blocks around the returner. As we can see, the backside wing does a nice job closing down at a 45-degree angle to the hash, but we need to make sure we watch the entirety of the play and ensure these players separate. Continue to officiate even after the play is over and let the players go to their respective sidelines, as it looks like this head linesman goes to move off to do something else.
Rob, before you go on to the next video, the wing, the LJ moving in there on the kick, I see that frequently on try kicks as well, where they get in a hurry and they don't wait until the ball's kicked. All of a sudden there's a muff snap, the holder stands up, starts to run their way, and they become a blocker, sometimes a tackler. So again, this applies to try kicks as well. Be very patient there on the wings. We need to pinch, and it's good that you do pinch and hustle in, but as you mentioned, let's hustle, let's not be in a hurry.
Let's jump right into this kickoff play. Great positioning by the referee on the goal line to rule on this possible touchback. Wings recognize this as the referee's responsibility. We can assist if needed, but we should leave this ruling to the referee with regards to the ball breaking the goal line. Wings, maintain your position on the goal line 2 yards out of bounds and continue to focus on the blocks ahead of the returner. As wings, when we lose our eye discipline to watch the players and we are watching the football or dipping into the referee's responsibilities, we vacate our third of the field, leaving the portion of players and blocks unwatched. Also, H&L, wind the game clock only when the ball is touched or caught in your side zone. Focus on the blocks downfield and pick up the returner in your peripheral vision. When the returner begins to move east and west, especially during kicks, we need to come to a stop and observe the action. Ball carriers changing direction leads to an increase in potential illegal blocks. When the returner begins moving north and south again, we too can start moving upfield and ensure we keep our 5-yard cushion to the returner. Also, wings, refrain from entering the field of play until the returner begins their run and only after they enter the opposite side zone. Then you can move in toward the near hash mark at a 45-degree angle and clean up behind the play. By entering the field and losing our 5-yard cushion, we are forced to go into recovery mode and we lose the focus of our area of responsibility. On this play, we have lost sight of this possible blindside block that could have occurred around the 37 or 38-yard line, which this player does an excellent job screening the opponent. The umpire is in great position to rule on the legality of this block, but the crew could have been in better coverage as the wing was not retreating to the sideline. H&L do not need to be in a hurry or do not get in a hurry getting to the forward progress spot. This exact forward progress spot is at the bottom of our priority, and we need to maintain our safe distance moving deliberately to the spot. What is most important that we watch the blocks during the play and continue to officiate the dead ball action. If we miss this spot by a yard or two, no big deal. It's not a game changer. Umpires and back judges, do not be in a hurry to move into the side zone unless there is something that requires you to move over there. This official moves into the side zone, leaving players of opposing teams unattended and unwatched.
Yeah, Rob, that the wings trying to get that spot very quickly, I think does create a lot of these mistakes. So very good point.
Here's action you may not regularly see on a kickoff play. What is your ruling? This is kick-catch interference. The opportunity to catch a kick applies whether or not a fair catch signal has been given, and on a free kick it is a foul if the kicking team is the first to touch the ball while it is in flight, even when there is no receiver in position. Team K is only allowed to touch a free kick after it touches a Team R player or touches the ground and is beyond Team R's free kick line. Those two events, breaking Team R's restraining line and touching the ground, may occur in any order, but once either one occurs, then not only is Team K allowed to touch the ball, they retain it if they recover it. If there is a foul for kick-catch interference, the receiving team may, most likely in this play, take an awarded fair catch after the enforcement of the 15-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. However, they may also have the option to decline the penalty and take the result of the play which they want to do, or accept the 15-yard penalty from the previous spot and replay the down.
Rob, just for clarification, on this kick, it did not hit the ground first, right? It
Correct.
Just popped straight up.
Correct. So this was caught straight from the tee.
And this is a college game, so they're kicking from the 35 instead of the 40.
Correct. Good point.
The other thing on that, Rob, is to remember that this rule is different than a scrimmage punt. On a scrimmage punt, of course, if there's no receiver in the area to catch the ball, the kicking team can go down and catch an airborne punt. So it's very important to remember the difference, which is unfortunately sometimes confused among officials and crews.
Great point. Thank you. On this kick out of bounds, let's discuss the mechanics of the crew for penalty enforcement and review where the ball will next be snapped. Wings on kicks out of bounds move to the dead ball spot while killing the clock. After arriving at the dead ball spot, simply drop our marker at the spot where the ball went out of bounds. This spot is important for penalty options for the coach. Referee, be aware the ball bounding near the sideline and close to the pylon, and move our field of vision downfield in the line judge's third to assist with potential blocks, since the wing is focused on ruling on this potential kick out of bounds or touchback. We do not need to officiate the ball in the side zone on this play. Once the ball has been kicked out of bounds, stop and look for the wing's preliminary signal. This signal becomes a trigger for the rest of the crew to begin their penalty enforcement duties in communication with the coaches. Umpire and back judges, if you are near the receiving team sideline, you can ask the coach which penalty option they would like to enforce. Remember, the coach may elect to enforce a 5-yard penalty and re-kick, place this ball 25 yards from the free kick line, and in this play, it would be the 35-yard line for the next snap, or have the 5-yard penalty enforced from the spot the ball went out of bounds.
Rob, on this play, the coach comes up to you and he wants the ball to be snapped in the middle of the field after enforcement of the penalty. May that happen?
Bruce, great point. And no, it is essential to know the 7 scenarios where the team may next take the ball snapped between the hashes. The request for placement of the ball is permissible for 4-3-6 for a try, during a kickoff, or after a safety, fair catch, awarded fair catch, touchback, or start of each overtime series. This rule does not cover the kick out of bounds, and by rule, this ball should have been placed nearest the hash mark on the yard line where the ball went out of bounds.
The other thing to remember on this play too is, let's say when the R gives a signal to the press box for this foul, remember this ball becomes live once it's legally kicked. So, and I've seen referees are wanting for some reason give a dead ball signal, but this is just simply rolling of the arms to indicate that it's a free kick infraction, and therefore signal accordingly to the press box.
Just one last point, Rob, and that is, in a traditional kick from the 40, the 31-yard line becomes your demarcation line. And the reason is, if the ball goes out at the 31 or out towards the middle of the field, towards the 50, then we are going to assess that 5-yard additional penalty. If it's at the 30 or to the goal line,
then the rule allows you to take it to the 35, but not add the 5 yards. So,
And Terry, that's why it's important to drop that flag
absolutely.
at the spot, because you could have two different enforcements based upon where the ball went out of bounds.
Just a yard apart. So it's very important we get that flag, as you point out, on exactly where the ball went out of bounds.
So note the time, quarter, and the score of this game for this onside kickoff mechanics. Regardless of the type or distance for a kickoff or of a kickoff, the kicker's restraining line should be officiated as a plane. Any player other than kicker or holder breaking the plane before the ball is kicked should be called for encroachment. Despite this no call on the second player from the bottom of the screen, this play provides additional learning opportunities. Let's focus on the blocks, the kick out of bounds, and official mechanics at the bottom of the screen. You can see K is guilty of an illegal block at the 49-yard line just above the 0 at midfield. During any free kick, Team K is prohibited from blocking an opponent until they are eligible to recover the ball has gone 10 yards, or the receiving team initiates a block within the neutral zone. Ask yourself who sees and rules on this foul. Back judge and head linesman, you should be focusing on these blocks as part of your responsibility, especially if you are backside, since there would be not much else to officiate. Back judge, you're looking through the K team players and should also have a good look. Umpire and lie judge, even though your primary responsibility is the rule on the ball crossing the restraining line, you could also grab this foul since it is a clear-cut foul. Then the ball goes out of bounds. We must maintain our distance from our other officials on the field. This spacing allows for a wide field of vision and to cover more areas on the field. Both officials could have officiated this entire play from the initial starting position. Only one official needs to rule on this kick out of bounds while the other focuses on the action. Who rules this kick out of bounds and who stays with the players? Since the back judge is responsible for blocking, they should continue to officiate the players in the field of play. The line judge would be focusing on the location of the football respect to the restraining line and can continue to watch players until it's clear this ball is going out of bounds, and then rule on this free kick out of bounds. Remember again, simply drop our flag at the dead ball spot. Also, do not be in a hurry to get a new football. I've learned there's two absolutes in any given football game. One is we'll start each half with a kickoff, and the ball magically always finds its way back to us. Finally, think how you would communicate this set of events to the return team's coach. Provide them with the best penalty enforcement option, which provides us the chance to review the 2018 rule change regarding penalty options for fouls by the kicking team. Now, fouls by the kicking team during a legal free kick or scrimmage kick may be enforced at the succeeding spot. The coach's best option is to decline the free kick out of bounds and assess this 10-yard penalty for an illegal block from the spot of the ball going out of bounds. After the penalty enforcement, the ball will belong to Team B, 1st and 10 at A's 33, and be spotted on the near hash of the yard line where the kickoff went out of bounds. This back judge begins this punt play in trouble from the get-go from being out of position. With the returner on the far upright, we should be located 8 by 8 yards, which would roughly put us around the nearest or the right upright. Being in a strong IP will allow for us more space and additional time to react to this play. Beginning this play in the correct IP, the B would simply need to adjust only a few steps once this player muffs the punt, and we can then begin retreating to the goal line. By going into recovery mode, our mind begins to race, and the possibility of many things are overlooked to officiate rest of this play. Let's take a moment to talk about the beanbag mechanics and the significance of throwing this beanbag. The beanbag is going to communicate to us and be important for the following reasons on any kick play. Throwing the beanbag signifies first touching by K, or it's going to signify possession was gained by R, resulting in a PSK spot. And if we had a fumble after R gained possession, then 2 beanbags would be on the ground for this play. Throwing the beanbag in this situation could lead to confusion and miscommunication amongst the crew. Now on the end of this play. What is your ruling? Touchdown or touchback? The proper ruling is a touchback. Since the kick had not yet ended and entered the end zone, this is a touchback. Ask yourself who has the courage to step up and save this official. If you don't, who will? And when we don't save our crewmates, the entire crew sinks. How do we save our crewmate? What approach should we take? And especially since their mind is going 100 miles an hour. Simply start a conversation with one simple question. Tell me what happened on the play. Asking this question, your crewmate will start to replay what just happened to you, forcing them to slow down and think through each part of this play. From here, we can start asking necessary clarifying questions to help to get to the appropriate ruling. Did K touch a football at your beanbag spot? Did R possess and fumble the ball, or was the ball muffed into the end zone? Having the covering official repeat what happened along with these 3 questions, the crew can then begin to piece this play back together. Once we have all the information on the table, we should be able to reverse this ruling on the field to the correct one of a touchback.
Rob, I think the key thing here when you watch this back judge is he's standing in sand on this play. And the idea is by being 8 and 8, just like as a free safety, as soon as he sees this ball start to go over the receiver's head, he needs to immediately start to back up. Most of the back judges I observe, they start out well with being 8 yards wide and 8 yards deep, but once something happens on the field, they stand still rather than continue to adjust to the play just like a free safety would. So again, back judges, be aware of this. And just to reemphasize what Rob said, we do not drop a beanbag when our team, the receiving team, touches the football.
One last point, and that is that beanbag, I think, becomes a hot potato in those back judges' hands. They feel like as soon as they can get rid of it, the better. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. We have plenty of time to get that beanbag on the ground, even if we have a PSK spot. Take your time, hold on to that beanbag, get it where it needs to be, and it doesn't have to be exact, and take your time with it.
Yeah, I see far too many back judges that want to concentrate exactly, and their head is down, looking at where they want to throw that beanbag to mark the PSK spot. Instead, just whip the thing. In 10 years of officiating with the PSK rule, we've only ever used it once. The nature of our punts are not in the air that long in a high school game, so we rarely have a PSK foul. So as a result, the PSK spot isn't that important. However, blindside blocks in the back are really huge importance, and therefore we want the back judge to keep his eyes up, continue to officiate, because these are really the key moments, the key calls. Where are the back judge's eyes on these particular plays?
During this punt play, let's focus on both wings and the back judge's mechanics. At the top of the screen, head linesmen pause a moment longer. Recognize that the punter is rolling to their right for a rugby-style punt, and we have a free defender in pursuit. Staying patient, we can assist with any potential block of this kick or a possible run by the punter. This punt goes more than 30 yards downfield, placing the crew in R&R 3. You can notice that both wings move well past the suggested 15 to 20 yard mark for R&R 3. By stopping it and observing, we can pick up the unnecessary action that may occur within the middle of the field. The official at the bottom of the screen does at least appear to be watching players, and our wing at the top is ball watching when we have an opponent fairly close to each other in the middle third of the field. Back judges, we need to be wide to the wide side of the field, most likely in the middle of the field with our 8 by 8 yard cushion on this play. If this back judge had a strong and correct IP, they would not need to move much on this play and simply back out to keep their field of vision. Being in the correct position allows for us to watch down the middle of the field for any illegal action by both teams. The back judge also on this play alone can officiate this ball rolling on the ground.
When I observe, Rob, one of the things, and you mentioned it, I'm glad you did, and that is too often we see wings wanting to ball watch. And obviously in these situations, the back judge can take care of that very easily. So please, if it's R&R1, go 10 yards and then go ahead and stop and observe, which is where most of our punts are.
Also, Rob, and we don't have a good end zone view of this, but the back judge ends up there at the top of the numbers. And obviously he got on the wrong side, or when the receiver moved, he didn't let him cross his path, and he ended up pinned to the sideline, or at least to the numbers. So remember, back judge, let's try to let stay in the middle of the field, and if that receiver moves one way or the other because of the punt direction, just let him cross in front of it.
I think to go back to Dr. Maurer's point in the previous play, is as a back judge, if we're in proper position, we can keep our eyes up and help with the middle of the field with the blocks. And we really don't need to be watching this ball rolling around since there's not an our team player near either.
And Rob, I need to correct myself. That's why I went and referred to the goal book, which I normally do once or twice while observing. Obviously, when that punt is 30 yards or less, they're going in R&R2, because as I just looked up in the goal book to refresh my memory, R&R1 is obviously things they do at the line of scrimmage before they start to drift downfield.
So let's talk about the crew mechanics on this punt play. And we'll start with the referee, work to the wings, through the umpire to our back judge. The referee is in excellent position by being 5 yards deep and 10 yards wide of the punter and positioned at a 45-degree angle. This position gives you a great view as a referee for your keys and responsibility. After the kick, then we can jog to the line of scrimmage and officiate the return. Umpire, you're in a good location opposite the referee and nose up to the tackle. You could move up 1 yard to be at our 7-yard IP. With this short kick, hitting and bouncing under 30 yards, as an umpire, simply turn around and watch the players. This will give you the all wide perspective view of these players. Head linesman, good patient to see the punter catch the snap and punts the ball with no threat from the receiving team. Good job recognizing the length of the punt and jogging and stopping 10 yards downfield. Line judge, maintain your depth on the sideline of 2 yards until the kick has been possessed and it becomes a running play. Stop and officiate 10 yards downfield. Backside wings have the best big picture look at the action, and along with the referee, could really save the crew for any unnecessary illegal actions. Now on to our back judge. When the returners have their feet on the goal line, the back judge should position themselves on the goal line and 8 yards wide of one returner, or splitting the difference between two returners. By being out of position and in front of the returner, we provide no coverage for blocks coming downfield. We end up officiating error in a returner who simply does nothing on this play. We immediately go into recovery mode, saving ourselves from being in the wrong position and putting more pressure on our now 4-person officiating crew. If the back judge stays on this goal line throughout the play, they are most likely not to have to move much and can only need to adjust slightly to the returner's action. Once this ball was dead by rule, back judges then can move to the dead ball spot and continue to observe any dead ball action, kill the clock, and drop their beanbag.
Rob, I think the big thing on this play is we don't want the back judge to go running up to the dead ball spot. If so, obviously we know his eyes are at the dead ball spot. Instead, stay back, stop the game clock twice, and observe the action. Too often we see too many films, video clips of shots once the ball is dead. We always know where the dead ball spot is, and we can always get help from our wings regarding that dead ball spot. So one, stay back, stop the game clock twice, swivel your head, and continue to look for dead ball action.
The referee appears to be in good position both at the 5-yard depth and 10-yard width. As this punter rolls slightly to the right, the referee does a great job holding their IP. There is no need to move on this play, and by staying still, the referee continues to be in great position to cover this play. If this punter continues to roll in the side zone, allow the players to cross your face and stay on the hash to provide an inside-out look. Wings do a nice job being on the sideline, and by being on the sideline, we get a wide perspective of this play as the players are typically spread out across the field. And it also provides us, by being on the sideline, the opportunity to help with the kick out of bounds. Good recognition by the head linesman of no threat to the punter. Once the punter begins to start their punting motion, they begin to release and move downfield. As mentioned before, there's no hurry to get to the spot of first touching. Just whip your beanbag near the spot of first touching. B, stay on the goal line, and the most important line of the field is uncovered on this play, which is the goal line. We are no longer in position to rule on this possible touchback. If this were to become a touchback, then the spot of first touching is irrelevant, and R would have taken the ball to the 20-yard line. The football guys take care of us on this play by not allowing this ball to roll any closer. After the ball is dead, make eye contact with the referee and provide a strong first touching signal. It takes a little longer for the crew to recognize the first touching spot, and strong signals and communication will assist the crew noticing this sooner. The referee does a nice job providing the first touching signal to the press box. So Team K is backed up on their 1-yard line on this play, and we'll discuss the IPs of the crew and review the movement after the ball has been kicked. Great IP by the referee. Since the punter is in the end zone, he is aligned correctly on the end line and 10 yards wide. He's in great position to rule on the ball or any threat to the punter, and wide enough to see any blocks or contact to the punter. Umpires were at a good depth at the 7 yards and nose up on the tackle opposite the referee. Both wings are on the sidelines in good position. Great recognition by the head linesman. Be aware of field position. With location on the field, we're in reverse mechanics in read and react 1. The H immediately moves to the goal line, getting into great position to assist the referee on any action in the end zone. Nice work to be patient until the kick has been made before moving downfield. Especially during kick plays, there's no need to be in a hurry. Line judge, move with intent and purpose. You're responsible for the kick crossing the neutral zone. The L's first step is in, and by moving, we lose our position on the sideline and you lose sight of the ball to the relationship of the line of scrimmage. The punter gets a hold of this kick going more than 40 yards. This places the crew in the read and react 3, meaning our wings will go 15 to 20 yards downfield, get into position, stop, and officiate this return. Back judges, you should recognize quickly this punt is deep and that the ball is moving into the side zone. It's important we move and maintain our 8 by 8 yard cushion. If possible, do not turn your back on this play and backpedal to maintain our cushion and our field of vision. Once the returner gains possession, we can drop our beanbag on the respective yard line. Maintaining our cushion, we are in perfect position to see the possession and the return. On this play, once the player gains possession, stop at the hash. Line judge, stay 20 to 25 yards around the 20 or 25 yard line and officiate the entire play from this position. The line judge is in a hurry to get to the spot and runs by potential blocks by the kicking and return team. The back judge and line judge are both watching the returner, which leaves a large portion of the field and the players unattended. Just like a kickoff, this forward progress spot is essentially meaningless if we miss it by a yard or two. And wait until the ball is dead, the runner is down before we move, slow and deliberate, to the dead ball spot. One final thought regarding this play is regarding the restricted areas. Be diligent early in the game to clear your restricted areas. As you can see at the bottom and the top of the screen, there are a lot of team personnel within the white. It is crucial for our safety. Address it early to help provide us the room we need to safely and properly officiate any plays, especially punt plays.
Rob, those are all very good points. Again, as Bo has indicated many times in clinics and camps and meetings, is who are the most important players? And as you run this tape forward, obviously, as Rob indicated, we've got two officials that are far too interested in the dead ball spot. And where are the important players? At the 40-yard line, the 35-yard line, the 45-yard line, etc. So please ask yourself on these plays, did I continue to officiate the most important players, or was I ball watching and spending far too much time being concerned with the dead ball spot? Well done, Rob.
On kick plays, we need to have a higher awareness for potential illegal blocks and focus on matchups and players and not the football. This punt is 30 or more yards, leading the crew to work a little deeper downfield. We have an illegal block in the back occurring around the 35-yard line, the hash at the bottom of the screen. Take a few seconds here to visualize yourself from your position on the field, and where would you be looking? Are you focused on potential matchups of players from opposing teams? You and line judge, umpire and line judge, is this in your field of vision? Recognize the ball goes deep over the returner's head, forcing the back judge to bail and head to the goal line. Our first wave of potential blocks are near the 35-yard line. As this play develops, we need to check down on matchups of players and threats for blocks as wing officials. Since the first wave of K is not threatened, the line judge needs to check down to our next threat, this block, so we can catch this one. Umpires, by turning and watching players, this happens in the wave of players we should be focusing on during the play. If we were scanning the field for potential blocks, we can see that this R player speeds up and is moving in a direction away from the football. Referees, even though this play is far downfield, if you see the entire play in a legal block, This could be a crew or game saver. Before calling this foul, run close to the spot to drop your flag versus throwing it 30 yards away. These obvious fouls need to be called. This play, we could easily have more than one flag by the crew. Great work by the back judge to recognize the need to retreat to the goal line, and great job maintaining the width needed on this play. This back judge is in perfect position to rule on this tight goal line play.
Rob, if you could, let's back it up a little bit just before this block occurs. Right about now. Obviously, we can look and we want to. It's very difficult when you're trying to watch all these players at one time. But we know first that the receiving team is in white. And so what we teach is, once this ball is kicked, say to yourself, white, white, since they're the team that traditionally will probably foul. Secondly, we have a white player in what we call chase mode. This white player is chasing a kicking team player, so he becomes suspect. This is not yet a foul, and so he's simply suspect. Now, as we run this play a little bit further here, we can see clearly a foul, and the player falls forward. So again, look for those players of the receiving team that are in chase mode. Think about he becomes suspect, and then once he's suspect, then of course watch the action and then determine whether it's a foul or not. This will help us all become better officials and be able to officiate this play, which a lot of people think might be the most challenging play we officiate.
Referee and center judge make sure on this punt play or any punt play we get our 5-yard depth from the punter. Center judge, we may take one step a little wider to get to our 10 yards, while the referee, you may want to take 1 or 2 steps closer as it appears you're a little wider than desired. Wings, good IP on the sideline. Umpire, we are a little deep at 8 yards. Move up to the prescribed 7. We're not pushed back by any team or player, so we could easily move up. This kick is extremely short. As wings, we need to recognize this ball has landed. Since this kick is short and the ball has landed, this is a good opportunity to get as close to the 10 yards as possible and stop and officiate. Umpires, turn and watch from your IP. Now let's watch the movement of the line judge. Wings, we do not want to enter the field of play on any kick plays until the kick is ended. Begin to work into the hash during the run following the punt. Back judges, once again, we do not need to be in a hurry to move up to officiate the football that is rolling on the ground. By moving up and focusing on the football, we are not officiating the actions of the players. Punts rolling on the ground extend plays, creating additional opportunities for players to do something not so smart. Wings, by being on the sideline and stationary, and umpires turning and staying at our IP, and our back judges keeping our cushion and depth, we can begin to recognize this one player that is continuing to play during this play. 2 things can happen on this play if the back judge stays back. He is first out of harm's way, and second, he can be present and closer to these 2 players who chest up after this play. The wings then could recognize the back judge is helping to de-escalate the situation and step up to officiate or assist with the dead ball spot. The temperature of the game, meaning the player's emotions or previous actions during the game, may dictate the need for this to be a foul. In my judgment, this would not be a foul, but definitely a talk to of these 2 players. On this punt play, we'll focus on the mechanics of the referee, back judge, and umpire. Great initial position by the referee with the punter in the end zone. They are in perfect position on the end line and 10 yards wide. The head linesman is on the sideline. Umpires, we could move just back a yard to put us at our 7 yards. We appear to be a little wider than the nose up to the tackle. However, it appears we're forced slightly to move by the placement of the defensive player. Head linesman, there's no need to move on this play. If we were inside the 5-yard line, then our reverse mechanics would take priority. But since we're not inside the 5, stay at the line of scrimmage. This one threat does not provide much threat to the punter, so we can stay on the line of scrimmage and adjust. Back judges, it appears we have 2 receivers, so we'll want to split those and be 8 yards deep. Good adjustment by the back judge to move to the 45-degree angle looking at the receiver. This will provide you the look needed to rule on fair catch, muffing of the punt, and still be able to quickly get to the lead blocks once this becomes a run play. Nice work by the back judge to throw their beanbag to the PSK spot. This exact spot is not necessary, just needs to be in the general vicinity. Great job standing still and letting the play to develop and allowing the players to cross your face before beginning to move upfield. Wings, since this punt is about 30 yards, we'll jog 10 yards downfield, come to a stop, and officiate this play while standing still. Remember, head linesman, you'll help the back judge with any potential fair catch signal by the return team. It is important to get to our 10-yard landmark and not overrun this play. Being at our 10 yards and in position and calmly backing out allows for us to rule on this block that occurs between the returner and the head linesman. Back judge, stay between the hashes and keep the inside-out look at the blocks. Moving into the side zone such as this could possibly straight line you with the players. Umpire, I like the side step to open up and stay at the spot. Let the flow of players take you upfield. No need to work out in front. Maintain your inside and out look. Overall, solid work by this crew. A few minor adjustments in our movement, we put ourselves in an even better position to officiate this play.
Rob, the other thing would be obviously on this play is the R would move up to the goal line, since the goal line could be threatened on this excellent return by the receiving team.
So on to our last 2 plays. On this kickoff play, ask yourself, is this a false start on the offense or encroachment on the defense? This is a false start on the offense. It is clear the quick and abrupt movement by the team was designated to cause Team B to encroach. Players simulating action at the snap with the appearance of starting the play shall be ruled as a false start.
Could you back that play up, Rob? Let's take a look at the L who throws his flag, but what does he have to do once he throws his flag? Is obviously signal stop the game clock. 2 times. Appears that the referee does not also stop the game clock. So just remember on these dead ball fouls for illegals or snap infraction, false start, encroachment, it's whistle, flag, stop the clock. There's no reason here. Well, possibly, yeah, I would think here they're probably going to run in and talk because of the uniqueness of the play. If we have a standard no-brainer false start, of course, we're going to go whistle, flag, stop the game clock, and then give the preliminary signal to the arc.
Before we discuss Team B's action, it is important to note this clip is not from Ohio. We'll only comment on the referee's initial position. During field goal attempts and try kicks, position yourself 5 yards deeper and 10 yards wide. The width looks good, but the referee needs to adjust being 5 yards deep, which would place the referee on the 20-yard line and in perfect position to view their keys of the snapper, holder, rusher, and kicker and holder. Now let's take a look at Team B's actions. In 2020, the penalty for disconcerting acts was reclassified to a 5-yard penalty. The disconcerting act foul includes actions or words by the defensive players or player before the snap in an attempt to interfere with teammates' signals or movements. This play is an excellent example of such a play. Team B's abruptly and synchronized movement is an attempt to create a false start foul. If in our judgment Team B's action or words, for example, simulates a snap or the cadence, or are an attempt to disconcert or hinder Team A, this is a foul for disconcerting acts. In any case, we should sound our whistle and shut this play down before the snap.
And remember, Rob, on the disconcerting act that we'd have to give a dead ball foul signal first, followed by the hand behind the head, one hand behind the head, to indicate that this is the new signal. People have asked me because, well, gee, that's a signal for illegal equipment, but as you know, a few years ago, we eliminated fouls for player equipment, so that's why the Rules Committee is using this signal, the hand behind the head, to indicate this foul for the 5-yard penalty.
Okay, and last minute add on to Rob. Rob, excellent job. A lot of things covered. I think it's going to help us all out on this play, and this happened this weekend. And it's been a few years since we've seen this type of play and the so-called trickery we could get into when we have someone other than the designated kicker kicking the ball. So we just want to bring it up in everybody's mind and remind everyone. We've got one player that is more than 5 yards behind the kick line. Everybody else is within that 5-yard belt to the kick line. But if we watch, this player right here ends up kicking the ball. Now, as we've discussed many times, use back judges. If we're an onside kick, the LJ and the HL also need to look at the sock, the shoe, the leg of the potential kicker and make sure that's the shoe or the sock or the leg that actually kicks the ball. If it's not, then we know we've got a problem and we need to shut it down. But I'll play this play, just kind of watch who kicks it.
Whoops.
Yeah, obviously the person with the black shoe and the black sock is not the one that kicked it. So what's our mechanic here? Well, we're going to shut this play down. We have an illegal kick. It is a dead ball because it was prior to the ball being kicked. And we're going to have a formation, false start, the spinning of the arms as our signal. So back judge, umpire in particular, probably sees this better than the back judge, but either one has got to get it. The referee probably can see this as well, although he's 60 yards away, but at this point you can pretty much tell who's standing more than 5 yards behind the kick line. As soon as the ball's kicked, we're killing this play, throwing our flag, giving the timeout signal because it's a good habit to get into, and we're moving it back 5 yards and re-kicking.
Yeah, the penalty is a free kick infraction, technically, so we're going to give signal, dead ball signal followed by signal 19, which is the free kick infraction. As Terry indicated, similar to the false start signal.
Okay, that concludes our online meeting. I want to thank everybody for watching.
People have asked, and we will be having one more meeting, virtual meeting, and Rick Barnes has graciously volunteered to help us with our last virtual meeting, which we'll do in 10 days to 2 weeks from now, and that will be primarily on Rule 7 and Rule 9.
That concludes our meeting. Thank you.